everyone, welcome back to the live class. In this class we're going to create a stream with using Mantaflow and Blender. And now let's create a landscape. We're going to create a landscape using Blender inbuilt add-on called landscape. To enable this landscape, you need to go to edit and then preference and type length, and then there's add-on ANT landscape. You need to check mark the box and you will find it in the mesh. To add a mesh, press shift A and then go to landscape. Shift A, landscape, and go to select river. And first of all, we don't need the river water plane because we are going to create a river with the Mantaflow simulation. So we're going to uncheck this water plane and we're going to create a height of the landscape. So you can adjust the height from here. We're going to bring all the maybe 1. It's too narrow, I think. Maybe 0.5. I think we need to reset. You cannot do shift Z because it will not reset any value. To reset the value, you need to press right click on the any of this and click reset to the default value. I think it's too high, so maybe 0.44, and we're going to create offset by negative 0.3. It's too narrow, I think. White, so it's too white, so negative 0.03. Yeah, it's looking good. And maybe 0.4 or 5, let's say. If I not negative point, let's go negative 0.0. I think it's pretty good, and we're going to scale the in x-axis. Usually this is the not actual scale of the mesh. If you want to scale the actual mesh, you need to scale it from mesh size x and mesh size y. This is the size of displacement. It's a texture for the bumps. And we're going to scale it from a y also. It's looking good now. And we're going to tilt this towards kind of angular. And to do that, press, I think now, yeah, settings okay. Now you can press R and then X to rotate. Press shift to rotate it by very small inches, maybe a little bit more. So R, X, and shift, hold shift and then rotate. Maybe this is okay. Now we're going to add uh, emitter for the particle system. uh, we need to create a plane, and we're going to rotate this in 90°. To do that, press R and then X and 90, and we're going to scale it down and G. I'm going to take it somewhat it's too far, so maybe this one. And we don't want this plane to be neither too big nor too small. Scale G, X. If it's too big, then it will create lots of particle, it will overflow. When you adjust this one, you need to keep around maybe you should not go under the landscape mesh, because it will some of the particle will flow underneath the mesh. So to avoid that, create some gap between the emitter and the landscape. Go to the plane GZ and shift. Yeah, I think this much is ideal. Now we're going to create a domain for the fluid system. So press A, we're going to add a cube. Go to the wireframe mode to see it clearly underneath. So press Z and press wireframe, and we're going to scale it in Z axis, so S and Z, and then scale it down. We're going to bring it up a little bit up here. Hope everything is inside this cube. We don't need this much size in x-axis or front view. We going to scale it down from the front view by pressing shift, not shift, it's S, and then press X and then drag your mouse, and this must good. One thing to remember is we don't keep the emitter close towards the cube. It will not work properly, and so to avoid this some glitches, you need to keep some gap between the domain and the emitter plane. Any emitter, you can use any mesh to emit a particle. Now let's assign fluid modifier and then go to the select domain, and from gas to liquid, and I'm going to increase the resolution to 128, and now we're going to select and then add fluid system to the plane. In this case, we're going to select the flow and select the liquid from flow type and flow behavior to inflow. There's three options. There's inflow and outflow and geometry. What it's do is, if you select inflow, it will produce continuous flow of particles, and the outflow will delete the particles, and the geometry will be, it will only emit the particle from at one time, all the particle at once. And from the flow source, uh, please check mark the planar is on, because it's plain and it does not have thickness to it, so we need to click check the planar option and check the initial velocity, and we're going to give initial velocity of maybe negative, because it's going to flow in the negative y-axis. That's why we are going to give initial velocity to the y-axis, and maybe by negative 0. I think 3 will be ideal. And now we're going to select the landscape and go to fluid, and we're going to choose effector, and it will act as collision, and we need to check the planar because it also does not have any thickness to it. So now let's set a few settings in a domain. We want to uncheck the front and the bottom, because we we don't want to fill this domain with a particle, with a fluid. We need to continuously go and flowing in this part. What you'll do is, if we uncheck the front and the bottom, it will not it will kill particle instantly when the particle touches the domain, so it will avoid volume uh, and from the flip we are going to, maybe it's okay, we can increase the narrow band to width up to 6. What you'll do is, it will create a more particle and a kind of volume. It will make some volume, and this fractional obstacles is turned on, and now see it's going some beneath the landscape. To avoid it, we are going to raise this plane a little bit towards the axis out here, and let's select the domain and let's do changes in the resolution, and it's going to solve the problem. And we are going to check the mesh, and we are going to select the form. From the form we are going to put increase the potential radius and particle update both to 4, to avoid some glitch. I think it's bug. And we're going to increase the frame to 400, and from set it to modular from the replay, and we're going to change format volume to unicache, and open the mesh, and we're going to decrease the particle radius to maybe 1.2, and check mark the use speed velocity. In later we are going to add motion blur to it. So now everything is right. equals form, and that's it. Now we can bake. Why we choose modular in cache instead of replay is we'll get the option to bake the data. That's why we are keeping it to modular. So now let's bake the data. Before baking, we need to do is we need to do save the project file, otherwise it will not work properly. So free data, please check the is resumable, so that we can resume the bake. So let's save. I'm going to save in a desktop. Stream save, yeah. And now let's bake the. Before baking data, we need to bring it up a little bit. So maybe GZ, yeah, that's it. And go to the and let's refresh the domain. And now let's bake the data. It will take some time to bake the data. It's due to the resolution of the particles. If your computer specs is quite low, then you can reduce the resolution, but it will not give a good quality. Or if you have a high-end PC, and you can increase the resolution up to 256 maybe. I'm using 128 because my PC is kind of mid-range, so it can handle up to 128 to 200, but it will take some more time. After baking data, we're going to create a texture to it, and then we're going to add lighting. In the lighting section, I will talk later also, and I will talk right now also. It's we are going to use HDRI. You can download from Polyhaven. It's free, and I have given the link in the description, and so you can go and download the textures and the HDRI. We're going to use the texture and HDRI from the Polyhaven. Right after the baking the fluid data, you can move on with particle baking, and then after that we can go with the mesh. Now we have finished baking the fluid. So now let's carry on with the baking data of the particle form. Now we're done with baking the data of particle. Now we're going to bake the mesh. It will take a little bit more than the fluid and the particle because it have a lot of geometry. Let's bake. In this tutorial we are going to render this with the cycle, because in Eevee we it does not work with motion blur. We're going to use the cycle to add motion blur in a composition part, and we're going to render it. Now we have finished baking. Let's see how it's going. Maybe it's working pretty good. Now go to the solid mode, and from the particle we're going to hide liquid from the viewport as well as the render. Now let's smooth the liquid. Yeah. And now we're going to create give a mesh to a form particle from hello. We're going to take this cone and reduce the vertex to the lowest because we have lots of particle in it. If you go with the high geometry, high poly mesh, it will slow down your computer during render as well as in viewport. You can scale it down. I'm going to bring it aside and scale it down more. And now let's select the fluid, and from particle we're going to select the form and open render, and then we're going to render it is from hello to object. From object we're going to select the cone, or you can choose the eyedropper and pick the cone as well. And from the viewport, this we're going to keep it 100. If you're running a lower end computer, you can decrease the amount to maybe 50%. But what we'll do is it will decrease the amount in viewport as well as in render, so we're going to keep it to 100. Maybe let's see, let's zoom in how big the particle is. It's quite okay to me. Maybe I'll scale it down a little bit more to maybe 0.07. It's getting bigger. Maybe 0.03. Yep, it's now a lot more smaller. And it's a scale random. We're going to increase to 0.3 randomness. We're going to turn off the show emitter, and now we're going to create a environment lighting. To do that, go to world properties and select the color, and from choose environment texture. And now we're going to open the HDRI that I have downloaded from the Polyhaven. The link is given in the description. And go to download, and I'm going to use Canon 4K HDRI. And to shade, we're going to divide this view panel and go to shader, to press N, so that we can have a lot to work to. And from there we are going to select the liquid, the fluid simulation, and then we're going to create a material for it. For the transmission, we're going to all the way up to 1 and IOR to 1.333, and this is the IOR of the water, and we're going to roughness 2 degrees to 0, and we're going to give it colored a little bit towards greenish blue, maybe this one, and we're going to drag it down to some value up here. Maybe let's see in render. That's good. Right now we can see the HDI background, so we don't need this, so you can go to the render. From that you can choose cycle. If you have GPU, then select the GPU. It will minimize the load to your CPU, and check the denoise. And from the film, we're going to the check mark the transparency, so we don't need background. From the color, from the color management, from look, we are going to change none to high contrast, so it will give some contrast to it. And if you think the water material is quite dark, then you can little bit give value little bit higher, maybe this one, or maybe more. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. And now we're going to give textures or material to the particle. To do that, select the cone, and let's add a new material, and we're going to leave it the default setting. And now let's give a texture to the landscape. For the texture, I have downloaded the ground texture from the Polyhaven, so I'm going to show you the way how you can bring the texture in this project. Go to file and go to append. From the append, we're going to where is the texture you have downloaded. Right now I have downloaded in download folder, so you can go to the ground rock 2 and open the blender file or blend file. And after opening the blend file, you need to go to the material and then select the rocks ground 2 and then append. It will not show directly. We need to assign the value to it, so we are going to select the landscape, and you need not to create new, but you can create click on the drop down menu out here and then select the rocks ground 2, and it will select the automatic, but right now it's does not look okay with material because it's stretched too much. So we're going to select the landscape and go to edit mode and press select all the vertices, not auto, by pressing A, and you press U to unwrap, and then click on unwrap. Now it will show the correct the textures, and right now it's too bright. I'm going to make darker. To make this I'm going to add a color node. From color we're going to choose hue and saturation, and we're going to add this in the base color. And from saturation I'm going to decrease the saturation to maybe, no, I'm going to keep this saturation to 1, maybe the value. I'm going to bring up the value to 0.7 or 6. I think 6 is quite dark and 7 is better, and that's it. To merge the the screens, you need to right click on the border and join area, or you can do it from the top where the plus sign show, and you can drag directly. And now we have created the material and everything. What we need to do is from the view layer property, we are going to check the Z and vector, and we have already done with the render setting. And for the output we're going to choose a folder in a desktop, new folder, maybe I think new folder. We're going to add a new folder and select the new folder again, and we're going to accept. We're going to keep it as PNG, and that's it. And now we're going to add a camera. To add a camera, shift press A and go to camera and add camera. We're going to select view where we're going to show the water is flowing, maybe right here. That's good. And pressed Control Alt 0, and now you can adjust the camera. So by double tapping RR and Shift, and we're going to adjust maybe that's this much is good, looking good, maybe out here. And we're going to, from the render setting, we're going to bring it down the max sample up to 50. Maybe if you can depend, it will depend upon your computer again. Right now for the sake of tutorial video, I'm going to bring it down up to 28 so that it will render very quick. And we're going to make the start frame it from maybe from 100, I think 100. Let's maybe do it from 100. Output, we're going to end frame up to maybe 250. Right now let's keep it 250 and frame. now let's render the image. It's not sure. I think we need to save before render, I think. There's one problem that we're not showing the liquid. Maybe it's completely transparent. You can see the only particle. Let's bring to maybe 160 and let's it's kind of weird. It looks like it they're showing some material, but it's kind of looks transparent right now, total transparent. We have some particle, but we are not showing the liquid, the flow. But in this it will show. Okay, maybe we're going to check this out and let's see once more. I got no clue right now. The fluid is alright. It's not showing in the render view as it should be showing. With the material, let's go to shading. I think it's not with the texture problem. Maybe let's see. Let's render it down anyway. Maybe if you can fix this in composition. Let's close this and go to composition. Let's you need to use note. I think it's not showing. I think we need to do some other thing. We have saved the project, we have baked, we have done everything, but I don't know why it's showing. It should be showing. Let's see. Yeah, it's not showing. I think it's a glitch, and I'm going to fix this, and I will release a short tutorial on how to fix this. And right now I will keep it as like this, and right now I have no idea what's happening with the blender. I can only see the particles, not the actual fluid. Maybe I've done something wrong, but right now I can't figure it out. Maybe I will make a short tutorial and release in the YouTube channel. and maybe I will call off the class right now, and I'll fix the problem, and I'll make a short tutorial video how to fix this. And I'm also going to show you how to make a video movie sequence from the PNG in a tutorial video. I think this much for the today's live, and yeah, I'll release maybe today only. I'm going to create a short tutorial on how to fix this, and so let's see in the next class. And thank you for joining me, and yeah, see you next time. See ya. And do not forget to check out the new tutorial video to how to fix this kind of issue in Blender. Yep, I'll figure out with the maybe with short duration. So let's see in next time in next class. I'm going to call off the class right now. So yeah, that's it for today, and thank you for joining.